Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our final webinar of our 4-part series, Online Backup Basics 101. This week we will be focusing on the different kinds of services for different kinds of backups. As general housekeeping rules, all attendees will be on mute for the duration of the webinar. We will be taking questions at the end of the presentation through the Q&A feature. Today we will be reviewing data types and needs, how the cloud can be customized to fit your needs, the future of the cloud, and how to choose the right solution for you. Our presenter today is John McGuire, the Director of Sales and Marketing here at VaultLogix. John has been with VaultLogix for 8 years and brings over 15 years of backup and storage industry experience with him. John?
Thanks, Melanie, and thanks for everyone for joining us today on our final part of the series. I was able to make the other 3. They were pretty memorable. But coming here from the Northeast up here in Boston, it's a beautiful sunny day. Hopefully it is where everybody else is located as well. So for starters, I wanted to kind of put an even playing field for everyone's on the call. I'm sure I have people that are extremely technical all the way down to the people that know how to turn on their computer. But looking at it, I wanted to kind of go over the different types of data, and it's really more where the data is residing and how important that data is. So there's basically 3 different areas that we're going to talk towards. First, there's desktops. This is, of course, personal computers. Typically not a lot of critical data besides some documents are on these desktops. In most companies, the data is held elsewhere on servers or other applications that could be hosted somewhere else. Secondly is laptops. Again, another personal computer, but of course this is geared towards the mobile user. This person could be working remotely, could be in and out of the office a lot. This person is going to have a little bit more critical information on that machine because of its mobility. And on top of that, the last one is a server. Basically, all these shared machines that are typically serving applications, could it be a CRM, financials, a file server, an email server, but they're serving that application or that service out to the desktop, out to the laptop. This is definitely the most critical of data that's out there today. And of course, the idea of this is actually the servers have a lot faster, more memory, more storage, and all the desktops and laptops are actually accessing those servers. So, as we move along and talking about taking that idea of there's a lot of different types of data out there, we want to make sure that that data, different data needs different types of solutions. So, number one, looking at the need from a backup standpoint, there's some data needs to maybe only be backed up once a day. But there could be something that's maybe a little bit more critical. I have a customer of mine that's been a customer of ours for years, and they had a transactional database, fairly small, but we would be able to we were backing that up multiple times during the day because his theory and the company theory was anything to restore data that's anything older than a day was useless to them. So there are some specific needs depending on the type of data that it is. Secondly, something that we'll go into, and I'm sure it comes up from a lot of people, is the discussion on, regulatory boards, as we say here, HIPAA, Sarbanes-Oxley, could be anything that's doing publicly traded, the SEC. These regulations also require companies to be able to back up and manage their data in specific ways. So looking at the needs, what are the guidelines that are required to meet these, and looking at it, is it all your data? Or is it specific data that's, is it for the data that you handle for a credit card, or is it patient records? But those are kind of information is very important to talk about the need. And then on top of that, there could be other business requirements. So your company or another company might not have a regulation coming down upon them, but there might be internal business requirements from a financial standpoint possibly, or anything else that might be there. And then on top of that, some data should be backed up locally, while others should be making sure that it gets off-site. We've seen over years, it's not always an all or nothing. Sometimes there's a level of criticality for data, and also depends on who you ask. I'm sure everyone who's creating their own data thinks their data is important, but there is some information that might not be as critical as others. If there's a company handbook that's separated between everyone in the company, does that really need to be off-cited? Where if a local copy is available and it can be recreated without a lot of heavy lifting, maybe it can be done just locally. Just a different way to think of it from different types of data. So, as we've been talking about in all these series, of course, coming back to the cloud and trying to get an understanding, but trying to put this in perspective of meeting those other needs. Well, just to give some ideas of making sure people understand, about cloud backup, of course, this goes to an off-site data center. So it's basically off the customer site, which is very important. And some of the driving forces that have come around in the past few years, it's probably been a little longer, but even the past few years, is there's been a lot of changes in technology, and just like anything, as technology gets bigger, faster, stronger, it actually becomes cheaper. So the internet connections are a fraction of what they used to be. On top of that, though, storage costs are way down. We have faster drives that are holding on to larger amounts of data. Well, you start combining these two things, and it actually allows the availability to offer out cloud backup can be more affordable than it used to be. A couple other nice features to touch point about as we go and talk about the cloud. It's often a monthly fixed cost, meaning it's something that you can budget. And on top of it, there's no hardware required. So being a monthly cost, the one nice thing about it, depending on what kind of company and the financials you guys are running, there's no CapEx. And on top of that, there's no extra hardware to manage. So if you look at this as a whole as going all these items, it's really kind of looking at, outsourcing your backup. So, there's different kinds of cloud backup, and what this slide is really geared towards here is, we being here at VaultLogix, I've been here for over 8 years, looking at the different types of people that have come in and out from a competitive standpoint, there really is a difference between a cloud backup company and a cloud storage company. And looking at some of the things here is really looking at the service that they build around what they're offering today. Cloud backup company is going to give you the ability to do backups and restores from there. They're going to offer 24/7 support where you can get a hold of people. They're going to use best-of-breed infrastructure to make sure that it's up and working at all times. They're going to make sure that it's available. They're going to make sure that you're going to be able to back up and restore the data or the information that's critical to you. Going back to talk about the needs, could it be multiple times during the day? Could it be a specific database or email? Very important than just throwing something up to the cloud, but also looking at it from an auditing standpoint and making sure that they're doing the right things or they're doing the things that they say they do, is looking at, here in a lot of the companies in this industry talk about a SOC 2 Type 2, used to be a SAS 70. But some of the components here is looking at that there's a big difference between cloud storage, cents per gig to send your data there, compared to cloud backup is actually offering backup as a service. So as we move forward, looking at that from a competitive landscape, and as well as in yourself is looking at this, if it's something that's of interest, understand the two differences that are there. So looking at it from a, customizing the cloud, and it's a great segue from that last comment is, there's, the large advantage here is that it's not a one-size-fits-all. That flexibility, because to be honest with you, there are a lot of companies out there that would want to use a cloud storage company because they just want some place to put their data. It's not a backup, it's not a recovery. It's a file. It's a file set, it's a file storage somewhere up away from their network. And that's a great need for them. But from our standpoint, looking at it from a backup perspective, looking at it from the cloud is that the flexibility is there. Could it be retention, data types, backup multiple times during the day, on-site to off-site? But these are things that's nice with the cloud is that it is very flexible. Different providers offer different solutions that can fit your unique needs. There are some people out there that are, I call them single-threaded, meaning they offer one service and one service only. And in some cases, that might fit your needs. But being in the industry for as long as I have been, not only here at VaultLogix being cloud backup for over 8 years, but being in storage and backup in general for 17 plus years now. Melanie, you have to make an update on that slide. But I know that there's not one solution that can cover everything. So having the ability to offer out different service offerings to cover the needs that you might have, is advantageous when looking at a provider. And then, of course, there are many different areas of cloud backup to customize. And these are some things that really fit what your business requirements are. And again, going back to the regulatory compliances, that ability to back up, multiple times. Could it be that multiple times daily, doing weekly, monthlies, even hourly backups or yearlies that are there to meet your requirements? There's also the ability to do CDP or continuous data protection. That need, as I mentioned before, for that customer of mine who had that transactional database, and his basic requirement was the ability to be able to restore within 15-minute increments. That's another possible need. Also, retention times. Having the ability to not only back up multiple times during the day or multiple times during the week or dailies and weeklies, but how long you can hold on to those backups for? Is that a requirement where I need to hold data for 1 year, 7 year? Also application support, meaning the ability to back up applications like SQL, Exchange, Oracle, specific database or applications of SharePoint, virtual environments. Those are important when looking at to customize how your cloud backup works. And then, of course, looking at it, there's operating systems, meaning your typical Windows operating systems, possibly even Unix, but also going into it, not just Windows in general, but splitting out the Windows environment into a server-based Windows operating system compared to that of a desktop or laptop system as well.
And I think this would be a great time to ask a poll question here. We are curious to know, what are you focused on backing up? Are you focused on backing up the laptops of your company, servers, desktops, or all of the above? And I will give everybody a couple minutes here to start voting, or a minute or so. It looks like we're almost pretty evenly split as we go into the 30-second mark here of people concerned with backing up their servers or all of the above. And they'll give us about another 5 or 10 seconds here. All right. So we had, share the results here, we had 53% of the attendees were focused on backing up their servers, and the other 47% were concerned with backing up all three.
Interesting. Melanie, talking about how long I've been here for over 8 years, which is a long time in technology, one thing I've noticed is coming along is that we used to talk about, when doing backup to the cloud, we really pushed upon just doing critical data only. And because of kind of what what we made mention about moving to the cloud is some of the key features of, the internet's becoming cheaper, bandwidth is cheaper, and storage costs are coming down. People are looking more and more to do everything, where before it was just to handle the critical stuff, to add a secondary or tertiary backup to what they're doing today. So, it's kind of interesting. So with that being said, as we move into kind of understanding what people are trying to do is, there really is a critical difference between the idea of looking at backing up and protecting a server compared to that of a laptop. I think everyone can understand why we back up servers today. It's like I mentioned in the first slide. It's the most critical stuff. It's where a lot of the business processes goes on. It's where if that information was gone, the company could be out of business. But the difference with what happens today is what's happening all over the place is as it mentions here, is that everything's changing so quickly, where there's a lot more people that are using their laptops. There are a lot more people working remotely, working from home. There's this talk across the, that goes around called, BYOD, bring your own device. So there's a lot more critical information that's now being saved on these machines. So they need to be protected. As I mentioned, the servers are easy. It's people backing up disk to tape using the cloud, using whatever they could be doing to protect those servers. But the issue or the concern that they have is that being a laptop or bring your own device is that those devices are on the move. They're moving, and because of that, the challenge is how do you hold them down? How do you track them down? How do you make sure that that data is protected, that data is backed up, and you can get that back? Because it's not so much the machine. Someone can go buy a new laptop for $1,000 or however much they are, and get that back up. But it's the data that's on there, and that's the important. It's all the work that's been done and the work that's been created, that the employee's been paid. That's the important piece of it. So basically, there's a lot of these new solutions that are coming out to protect mobile data, and I don't mean just your simple, a simple install a client and run a backup, but really the ability to track and monitor and be able to protect those mobile users. So as we kind of take it towards away from servers and looking at it more for needs of mobile device protection, as we talked about, is that these days it's more cost affordable for some companies to allow people to work from home, but also it allows someone like myself is, I'm on the road, I'm traveling, I'm meeting with customers, I'm going other places. My laptop is everything I have on it. So it's a very important piece of our work life these days. And because now you're taking it away from the office, well, now things can be lost or stolen. I can't tell you how many times I forget my laptop as I'm walking out the door. Now, I've never left it anywhere and hasn't been stolen or it's never been lost, but I do have to remember to go back in and get it after I've already gotten the car and getting ready to go. But itself shows how important it is. Our CEO here, and kind of the reason why this was driven a couple years ago, had the same issue where his laptop was stolen out of his car. And part of it, again, is that because you're taking it with you, the percentage of that to be lost or stolen, of course, increases by it leaving the building. So with that being said, is that there are now these solutions that can do a lot of different things to protect that data. And we're looking at it, protection can be done in a couple different ways. It's, of course, the backup and the ability to restore data. But on top of it, if the data is compromised, if the machine is stolen, is the ability to then remotely delete or shred the data if it's missing. A point of my boss, the CEO, his data was his laptop was stolen, and they were able to easily within an hour were able to get a new machine, load the data back, restore the data back onto it. But what was most important was our ability to remotely delete the data. So that anyone who had access to that machine couldn't get access to any critical information or sensitive information from the company, which I think is very important. So, of course, as hopefully you all are here, is making sure you're trying to educate yourself and learn more. And really looking at this is trying to make sure that you guys are choosing the right solution. And that's, again, not importantly so much about VaultLogix, which I think would be the right decision. But I think more importantly, it's making sure that, as we keep saying, the needs that you have or your business has or your customer might have. So, of course, before choosing any solution, just not jumping out and choosing the first person you see at the lowest price, but do a couple things. Number one, we talked about it. Go find out what is your regulatory board saying. If you're mandated by a HIPAA, Sarbanes-Oxley, GBL, or anything else that's out there, make sure you go find out what are the standards, what are the requirements, and match that solution to help meet those needs. And also consider the types of data that you need to protect. If it's your mail, let's say Exchange, is just backing up all your Exchange for the whole company. Is that good enough? or do you need the ability to get down to the mailbox or message level? Is it something that's a transactional database that needs to be protected and handled on a daily or multiple times during the day? And then lastly, which I think is even more important with everybody, is really the ability to review the business with some of the key position people in the company. I know here, anything that gets put out, the IT personnel goes to every business unit to find out what are their requirements and what are their needs so they can build a solution to meet that. And I think it's important because every department is probably going to have a different need. I think that there also could be certain requirements that come into play that need to be met. So I think that's important as well. So lastly, it's, talking about VaultLogix, hopefully a lot of you people already know a lot about us, and if not, here we go. Number one, VaultLogix is a full-service online data backup service provider, meaning that this is all we do. We don't offer any other services. We don't sell our software. We don't license it. We tend to think we're experts in this cloud backup arena. We own our own technology. We've been around since 2002. In this industry or in this area, that kind of makes us a dinosaur in some cases. We do have multiple data centers, and the reason why we point this out is that number one, part of our service is the ability to handle. We do back up your data to multiple data centers. We want to make sure that we're offering that business class service to make sure that it's always available. We are the exclusive online backup provider for Ingram Micro. For those of you who don't know Ingram Micro, they are the largest distributor of hardware and software in the world. We do have well over 8,000 business clients worldwide. I know we're in over 20 countries today. We do have over 600 plus resellers that actually resell our service kind of as their own. And then as I mentioned before, we are SOC 2 Type 2 audited and have that done every year. So lastly, the one thing that we do press upon here is talking about VaultLogix is that we do say we're a business class service, and part of it is that some people might say, well, what does that mean? Number one is looking at it, you can compare us to the, as I said before, the cloud storage, the cloud backup, so we're truly the cloud backup provider. But looking that up is, we offer a couple features within our solutions. Number one, we do have the ability to do a local backup as well as getting data into the cloud, so that helps protect, in case of having to restore data a lot faster. There's no additional software required to back up specific applications. We do offer 24/7 support. We have client and web-based access to data, which I think is very important, especially with regards to web-based access, the ability to actually go and retrieve a single file if needed from the web. We have flexible retention schedules, and of course there's no hardware to purchase, so anyone who's looking at it from a CapEx standpoint, it's a service and it's a monthly related service to help fit your needs. So, Melanie, I think now is a better time than any. This has questions up there, so maybe we should have a couple questions.
Yeah, absolutely. We have been accepting questions throughout the chat feature the whole time, and I do have a couple questions that have come in.
Great.
My first question comes from someone asking about the differences between servers and laptops, and pretty much why they can't use the same solution for a server and for a laptop.
That's a great question. I think I guess the idea is that it's not that you can't use the same solution for a server and a laptop, but I think the requirement from a service offering is going to come differently. In most cases, a server-based backup is going to want to have the ability to do process data a lot faster, a lot quicker. It's going to want to have the ability to do specific backups of SQL and Exchange, which is a little different from a client-based solution that you need to be able to get to do a lot of the heavy lifting. On the laptop side, you might not need that much of heavy lifting. You're backing up mostly files, PSTs, other documents that are there. But really, the ability for that is really the flexibility. And something in regards to our solution, why we've separated the two out is on the laptop side, being able to do remote policy management, meaning changing, could be retention schedules or how things get backed up or how long they get backed up for. The ability to do remote data deletion, to do silent installs for larger ones. So a smaller footprint and an ease of use to doing larger scale environments makes sense. And the difference is the requirements or the needs between a laptop and a server are different in that case. So hopefully that answered that question.
Yeah, great. The next question comes from someone asking about sort of VaultLogix key differentiators, and mainly how is VaultLogix different than a company like Dropbox or Box?
And that does come up here time to time, and again, another great question is really, differentiating everybody that's out there. And you look at cloud storage, I guess, is the big umbrella, and then underneath that, the silos would be, as a service type of scenario. So, a company like VaultLogix is offering a true backup as a service, and that's the, the ability to do versioning, the ability to hold on to retentions, the application support, the 24/7 support access to your data. Where on the other side of it, someone like a Dropbox, they're also offering out a service, but to them they're offering out almost like a file service as a service, but having that be in the cloud. So they're giving you more the ability to access data and to share data, but that doesn't give you the ability to actually be able to version, to restore. It's not a backup solution. It's just an ability to access that data. And again, when you're looking at it from specific requirements, especially those regulatory boards that we talked about before, be very careful when looking at companies like that they don't, they can cause some problems of breaching any kind of regulations that you may have as well.
Great, and it's funny you should mention the compliancy boards or regulatory boards, because our next question is related to that, and how cloud backup can help support these regulations that are put onto companies through HIPAA, SOX, and some of the other regulatory boards.
Okay, yeah, I mean they're all quite different, and they all require different types of meeting different types of regulations. I think some of the key components to this, though, when you talk about data and information and breaking out of the pieces that fit into that HIPAA, Sarbanes, and everything else, is really a couple things. Number one, it's data protection, meaning access to data, access to files. Looking at things to the cloud. The nice thing about it is that in most cloud backup companies that you're going to be looking at, or if you do look at, your data is going to be encrypted at all times, so it doesn't allow people to have access to that data. And then secondly, the other key piece of that is really the ability of making sure that things get off-site. So in case of a disaster, that there is a second copy and it is away from the building. But again, I think the best thing for someone to do is to go through and figure out what are some of the requirements from some of these regulatory boards, and then call your provider, call VaultLogix, and talk to one of our sales reps, and they'll tell you how we can help meet some of those as well.
Okay, great. And at this point, we're just over 12:30, so I think this is a good stopping point. We'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and we will, of course, be sending out a copy of the presentation as well as the recording of the webinar.
And if anyone has any other questions, there's a lot of other information on our website, white papers, case studies. We do have other presentations that we've done before. If anyone wasn't available to reach any of the other webinars we've done in the previous months, feel free to reach out to us. A couple of different ways to do that, of course, is email us at sales@vautlogix.com. Also, you can call us at 978-777-7177, option 1 for sales. And then lastly, of course, like I mentioned, you go to dataprotection.com. Go to our section. That's where you can get, if you want to trial any of our services that we offer, or if you just want to get some basic pricing, you get that there. But again, as Melanie said, I want to thank everyone for showing up today. I think, Melanie, we're taking July off. Everyone's I'm sure is going to be going on vacation, and we're probably going to pick things back up again. And looking forward to to working with everyone.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.